Welcome to the 24th Annual Capitol Conference, virtual edition. It's our goal with our sessions that each one will be about an hour in length. Sometimes we might go just a little longer than that. We may go a little shorter than that, depending on how our Q&A process goes, but we'll kind of roll with it. The title of this session is Number Sense, a Mental Math Contest, presented by Larry White, our State Contest Director for Mathematics and Number Sense. And thank you, Larry, for being willing to share your knowledge and expertise with all our attendees in this new format that we're trying out and learning this year. So I will now turn it over to Larry.
Hello, everyone. Isn't this a hoot? Used to be, we just all went up to Austin and had a good time, and all of life was good. I see a bunch of faces on some of those alphabet letters I don't recognize. Anyways, I hope all of you are safe and your families are well. I hope all this gets over with relatively soon so we can go back to normal and get our children back to school where they can get back to learning. It's been an interesting few months. I guess it's just his way it is. We'll deal with it because the Lord says we'll handle everything he gives us. So we're just going to keep right on going forward. So I'm going to start off with the presentation. I'm going to be jumping all over the place. And this is my first time to actually Zoom other than with David the other day. So we're just going to play hit and miss and jump all over the place. If you can see my picture in my background, I'm in my math and computer office where I write all those nasty math tests for you, make you happy and everything. And I've got my favorite math t-shirt on that I like to have on when I'm doing math. But anyways, let's get after this thing. I will tell you, I'll be doing in the math workshop on the 22nd, I believe, and then we're going to do an actual problems session, I believe, on July 10th, at which time we'll work problems. The easiest thing I think to do would be if you have some specific problems that you'd like to see worked, it would probably be a good idea if you just send them to me through an email, and I will get a list of them and I will answer them as I get them. And then whatever doesn't get answered, I'll try to respond to those emails themselves. I think that'll work out real well. So off we go. I'd ask you if you have any questions, but if you'd have to raise your hand, I wouldn't know you raised them anyway. I thought I'd start right here. I always like to play a little bit, and mainly because I want you to, for those of you new people that are new in number sense, I want you to understand that number sense is the ability to do mathematics in your head. And some of the more advanced mathematics to be able to do in your head has to be done through math strategies, not math tricks. For example, the problem in front of you is a whole series of fractions. And you could do that with a calculator. You could actually do it manually with a pencil and paper. But on a number sense test, it's 10 minutes long. It's pretty hard to do a problem like that. So you have to know some math and you have to know some strategy and how to solve particular math problems. Once again, I'd ask you, does anybody know the answer? But I'm not, I know Ken probably does. But anyways, we don't have any answers at this point. And I want you to notice that those numbers, all our numerators, all are 1, and then the bottom numbers happen to be the triangular numbers, 3, 6, 10, 15, 91, 105. If you don't know about triangular numbers, you probably need to learn about them because they're rather fascinating. Much of mathematics depends on them. And to be able to do that quickly, there's a nice little proof you can do, or you can work it out in parts, but sooner or later you come up with this answer. And the reason you come up with that answer is because if you counted all the triangular numbers up to 105, you would find out there are 14 of them. Now we don't have one up there. One is the first one, and so there's 14 of them. Well, as it turns out, and you can prove this thing, you can take one away from 14 and get the numerator, and you can take one, and you can add 1 to 14 and get the denominator. And that little strategy, or trick as we call them, is how you can do that problem. So if you had 20 triangular numbers, it would be 19 over 21. And that's how come we can do things so fast in number sense, because we learn strategies and techniques. So I thought I'd share that with you. Okay, for those of you that know me, my name's Larry White. I've been a contest director now for 18 years. This is my 19th year. I know that's hard to believe, but it'll be my 19th year to do this. The email you see there, you can email me at any time with that email. It comes directly to me. I'll be glad to help you in any way I can with any problems you have. If it's a new problem for the year, I'll give you some hints, but I won't tell you how to do them. But if it's some older problems, I'll be glad to help you and your students, guide your students to finding a strategy that works. I do not accept emails from students. As you would know, that would be rather huge if I allowed all the thousands of students to email me. I don't believe my email provider would like me too much. So can't take things from students. So your students need to contact you, and you need to send it to me, and we will go from there. This the link that you see there, that's the academic STEM link for number sets. It's a very important link, because that is how I contact you. And I'm going to leave this screen for a second, and because I want to show you that link. This is what the page looks like on the internet. And if you go to academics and go to STEM and go to number sense, you will find this page here. This is the page that I use to contact you with. Over here on the right-hand side, you'll see this thing that says corrections. This is the 2019-2020 from last year. This is how I talk to you. I sent this message out just after the virus pulled all of our stuff. This is how I talk to you throughout the year. The kids can get this page, anybody can get on it. I talk about corrections to problems and other such things like that, and anything I want you to know special, so that you don't have to wait until next year at the SAC conference or the Capitol conference to know what's going on. So it's important that you bookmark that page and go to it often. So there's a similar one in the mathematics as well. It's my way to communicate with y'all anytime I need to. So I just thought you would like to see that. So I'll leave that. And we'll go back to here and go back to run our slideshow. Okay, for those of you that are brand new, number sets is a 80 problem test based off of the sequence chart. I'll talk about the sequence chart in a little bit. It's a 10-minute test, no scratch work, no erasing, no marking over. You get 5 points for each correct answer. You lose 4 points for each incorrect or skipped problem up to the last one attempted. So if your student worked all the way to number 35, then you don't grade anything after 35. You just grade 1 through 35. But it's 4 points off if it's wrong or if it's skipped. The multiples of 10, 10, 20, 30, 40, all the way up to 80 are percent problems, estimation problems. The answer has to be within 5% error above or below. These are the most missed problems on number sets. I think that comes about because we don't require our students to do enough estimating, but they are missed more often than others. So you want to be sure and work on some estimation. Types of problems are on the sequence chart. And once again, I will talk about the sequence chart here in a moment. Grading and scoring rules are found in the 2019-2020 UIL Number Sense Handbook. If you don't have a copy of the handbook, I believe you can still download it from the UIL store. You should have a copy of it and take it with you anywhere you go to competitions, because that's where all the rules, if you call me with an issue, I'm going to bring up that rule book and I'm going to talk, we're going to settle the issue through those rules. Resources, one of the best resources around as far as an organization is the Texas Math Coaches Association. For those of you that are not a member, you probably need to become a member. They're very, very large organization for math and science events. Really have moved a lot of things along in UIL. They have a great liaison that works with the UIL people, and it has newsletters and resource pages and practice tests and forms. And then they have a big state meet in March where anybody wants to that's a member of TMSA can bring their kids, as many as they want, and they can compete, and then the seniors get to compete for large scholarships through TMSA. So it's rather nice. They also have a middle school one in April. And usually about 15 or 1,600 of those little ragamuffins running around, and it's a hoot to see. So if you're not a part of TMSA, be sure and contact Julie, email or by phone. She'll take care of you. Some possible books, and by the way, I don't get any compensation for recommending any particular people. I just want to help the coaches know where some good materials at that I've seen and I've tried, and I know they're good. There's probably a lot more out there, but I know for sure these are good. So these are some of the resources where you can get some practice materials and some books. Now I'm going to go through this part of this thing relatively fast, but when you download the actual PowerPoint off the UIL website, you will have all this, so there won't be any real reason for you to write all this down, but these are very good. Don Scow, as you know, used to be the number sense director before I took over. He has proofed my test for 18 years. This next year, he will not be proofing my test, but he's giving it up finally, and I have a new proofer coming in. Leo Ramirez, of course, those of you don't know Leo. Leo was a Disney math teacher of the year way back when, and we almost all refer to him as one of the math number sense gurus of all time. Francis Walzo's Little Red Book, very good, especially for beginners, was out of publication for a while, but it just recently came back into publication, so that's an interesting. Of course, Andy Zapata is the middle school and elementary number sense contest director, so he has lots of materials there. John Hobbs was one of those great coaches and person that worked with his kids. John is now retired, but he still has packets and things ready for you, so they're pretty good as well. These are some practice tests that are running around. You can get them from UIL. You can get from Texas Math Science Association, from Leo, Andy, Hexco, Linda Tarrant. I write 12 tests for Hexco, practice tests, to give you more practice tests similar to what I write for UIL. So it just gives you 12 more extra practice tests to deal with. Computer software, I don't ever like to talk about my computer software online, but if you're interested, give me a holler. It's an interesting program. A lot of schools have it across the state. I developed it many years ago to coach my kids. So you can just email me about that so we can move on. Websites, they're all the normal websites. If you do virtual number sense or virtual math meets and you don't have the money to travel, you might want to contact Chuck Thompson at Virtual Challenge Meets. He is retired from public schools now, but he continues to run his Virtual Challenge Meets business. So you want to contact him and find out when they're doing these things. Number Dojo, Jonathan Clough is used to be a real powerful number sensor. He's created this program that's sort of a game in certain senses, but it's loaded with lots of magic and stuff that you may want to go there and take a look at that. Brian Heath was a number sense competitor several years ago, really, really bright. He created this manual on number sense tricks. I think it's 163 pages, and he's added a bunch of new stuff to his website with tricks and strategies and everything. It's really quite good, and the real nice advantage to Brian Heath's thing is the fact that it's free. So you can go there and get a lot of wonderful information to deal with number sets. So that's a pretty important place to go. But all those are very good places for websites. Okay, I'm gonna leave the screen a second again because I want to show you how the test is created. I don't know if that's big enough for you, so I may make it a little bigger. This is the sequence chart for high school. There's also a sequence chart for elementary and middle school, and Andy Sabato and I worked real hard to try to make them align. Everything just works real smooth. But these are the type problems. If you look at numbers 1 through 20, all problems on number 1 through 20 on all our number sense tests have these items on it, or won't have any items that are not on here. So you can see they're more the basic items, but they're important in the sense that that's where kids need to begin and start working those numbers through 20. Now, if you look over here, by the way, there's 21 through 40. There again, this is downloadable at both at UIL, and then it will be, I'll post it when I do the PowerPoint. And these are all the things. But you see down here, for example, repeating decimals, number 12, repeating decimals and fractions, that can appear in 21 through 40, or it can appear or it can appear 41 through 60 or whatever, but it cannot appear 1 through 20. I can't move the topics up, I can move them down. But you can see that the number sense test is just full of unbelievable mathematic things. I always used to tell the teachers that were trying to get their kids to practice for these state mandatory tests, there's nothing better than to take out a number sense test and forget the rules about time taking everything and just work problems. They get to see all sorts of different problems off of this little 10-minute test. It's a great teaching tool, number sense tests are. So that's what it looks like. That's how I don't do things in an order most of the time, but 1 through 20 has to be in 1 through 20, or it could appear elsewhere, but 21 through 40 can't get moved up, 41 through 60 can't get moved up. So you don't have to worry about modular arithmetic happening anywhere except at the end. So that's how the thing works. Okay, let's go back to where we were. This is pretty cool. I like jumping around here. I'll have to catch up again, but that's all right. I'm a fast clicker. Okay, certain things that every number sense student needs to learn and what we call mandatory. You know, you don't want kids memorizing all sorts of math and stuff. You want them, but there are certain things they need to do. And these are the most important things. They have to know their first 35 squares. If they, you know, when one of my math kids was walking down the highway, down the hallway in class, and somebody said 144, their immediate thought in their mind was 12 squared. That they react that way. They have to know them automatically. You can't take time to think about them. They must know they're 35 squares. For elementary and middle school, I think it's 25, but you'd have to check me on that. They have to know the first 15 cubes. Once again, somebody walks by, one of my kids walks by another kid and says 1,728, they better jump to 12 cubed. They have to know those. You need the first 10 square roots to 3 decimals. That's the square root of 1 all the way to the square root of 10 up to 3 decimal places. I can't ask you to put down the square root on a number sense because you can't write symbols on number sense. You can only write numbers and minus signs and fraction bars on a number sense test. Nothing else goes there. So I can't ask you that, but I can ask you what the square root of k is, and you have to find k. So, it is there. So you need to know those. You need to know your onesies. The onesies come from, and I've told this story so many times, when I was a youngster in elementary school, I played jacks with the girls, and you throw that ball up and pick up the jacks. One, you do your onesies, then you do your twosies and all that stuff. And so I decided I'd use that terminology, onesies, from playing jacks with the girls. It was always fun. But the onesies in this case is you have to know the percent, the fractions, and the decimal equivalents. For example, you have to know 1/2, 0.5, and 50%. And it's got to be automatic. You just have to know them all the way up to 1/12. And then I added 1/16 because hexadecimals become so important to our society that I felt like they needed to have that as well. So they need to learn those very, very quickly. You'll see problems like 0.375 times 16, and you got to know that's 3/8 times 16, and you can make it work real fast. They need to know the Roman numerals and how they transfer over to our system. They need the remainder rules for 2 through 11, and how to find a remainder real quickly. And then they need to develop estimation strategies and do some memorizing of different types of problems on how they can handle those pretty quickly. You have to know those just pretty fast to be able to be successful with competition. Okay, practice tips. I think what happens too many times, we get kids to want to practice by taking tests. Test taking is not the answer to speed and getting accurate. If you want to get fast and accurate, it comes from increasing your knowledge and practicing problems, not from taking tests, but practicing problems. Getting out problems and get out a calculator, a piece of paper or whatever, and practice problems and develop a strategy where you can remember that strategy in your head. The more problems you do, the more you learn, the faster you become, and the more accurate. And I strongly suggest that you do not give, especially young students, early beginning students, an entire test. Give them section 1 through 20 and let them pound on that thing until they get fast and get good at it. Then they can pound 21 through 40. Once again, when you download the stuff from the UIL, I'll have some other suggestions written that you can follow to try to make this thing, to make it work. Note cards are valuable. Get out 5x7 cards or 3x5 cards or whatever, and write a problem and the strategy it takes to solve it, or the strategy they developed it takes to solve it. And by the way, just because Larry White says this is the best strategy for a problem. That may not be true. Some students develop a strategy that's quicker in their mind than it is in my mind. Everybody's strategy has to be their own. I remember the first young lady I brought to state in number sets. She missed a couple of little problems. She won the state championship, missed a couple of little problems. I said, how in the world did you miss this easy problem? You know the trick to that. And she looked me square in the eye and said, Coach, I don't use tricks. I just do it all in my head. I thought I was coaching her. I thought I was a great coach. No, she was just mathematically much stronger than I was, I think. So no rings are good. Knowledge and speed. That's the real keys. Get out, you as a coach can't take the test. I mean, you can take and practice, but you can't take the test. But you need to take the time to find all the material you can to provide the knowledge you need for these kids. And then work on techniques for speed, because that's where the real power lies. Test taking tips. Most students, especially the high-ranking students, they will warm up prior to at a contest. They will warm up prior to the contest with a practice test. I strongly suggest you have the kids warm up with an elementary test. They're very fast. The kids build a nice rhythm, and they feel confident because they're getting through it so fast. So I've always recommended you practice, you warm up with elementary testing and go. Goal setting, the sad thing about it is I've seen some people that should have been state champions without any trouble. The only problem is they were in the same classification or same grade with a person that's even a better student than they were, and they're state champions. Not all kids can be state champions, but all kids can be successful and be champions. They have to set goals where they're competing against themselves. If you only did 25 problems in the last contest, your goal ought to be, I want 26 problems. If you got 5th place last time, your goal ought to be 4th place. And your ultimate goal ought to be to make it to state. And then there's those ultimate goals. I want to be that state champion. And that takes a lot of work. But they have to set goals so that they don't get discouraged. Because if they go to a contest where 3A is mixed in with 6A, they may get blown clean out of the water and feel like they did not succeed at all. They need to set goals where they can come back to you and say, Coach, I did one more problem this time than I did last time. I made 18 more points this time than I did last time. I got a ribbon. Those are goals that they can meet and they feel success. Sooner or later, they can go to the big dance and maybe get medals, plaques, team championships. Estimations, kids need to practice estimations. I strongly suggest you take a bunch of number sense tests and take a bunch of the estimations out of those tests and just work estimations. They slow people down more than anything, and they get missed more than anything. So you want to be sure and do some estimations. Distractions. It's amazing how many times when I watch kids take number sense tests, even at the state meet, somebody will drop a pencil or somebody will open the door and people's heads will jump up. You have to figure a way to get your kids not to be distracted by anything. My kids used to practice with 2 radios going, one on the right side of their ear and the one on the left ear. And one channel might be on hard rock, the other channel might be on country. And that's how they took tests. They practiced so that they concentrated totally on that test and not all that noise. So that's a nice way to work that. Timers, I believe, my personal opinion as an ex-coach, my kids never used a timer on a number sense test. Every time you look away from your test and look at the timer, you lose at least 4 seconds, and 4 seconds is probably a loss of at least 1, maybe 2 problems. Just tell them to get it on. When the person says go, get after it and work, work, work until they say stop, and then put your pencil down. Don't worry about that timer. They're not going to get an extra 10 minutes. They're just, you're going to get 10 minutes and that's it. I just do not believe timers are a valuable thing. Skipping. You can skip on number sets. You will pay a price for everyone you skip, but if you can skip number 22 and work number 23, 24, and 5, you're going to be out ahead. It's okay to skip. I actually knew a young man many years ago in Class A. He competed against my son. He started with number 80 and worked backwards. And he would skip some of them and get all the way to one, then go back and move in. Of course, not many people can do all 80 problems, but he could. So skipping is okay. Just know when to skip and when to stop. Markovers, you might get away with a markover at a practice meet, but it's almost guaranteed at district and especially regional. And I guarantee you at state, you will not get away with a markover. The graders, especially the coach has been doing this a lot of years, they're going to catch those markovers. So if you actually put down the wrong number or you have to change something or what, just throw it out and move on to the next problem. You're not going to change it anyways. Pen versus pencil. Let me make sure you understand. UIL contest, district, regional, and state does not require a pen. It requires a writing implement. You can use pen or pencil or whatever on district, regional, state. If you go to the TMSCA state meet, they require a pencil. They can do that, even though it's a test I wrote, they can do that because it is their meet, not UIL's. And they can set whatever rules they want. Same thing if you go to a practice meet and they want you to use a pen, or they want you just to use a pencil, they can set whatever rules they want. You can't call me and say, hey, they disqualified my kid for using a pencil. I can't control what happens in a practice meet. So, but district, regional, state, do not let anybody tell you they have to use a pen. There is no such rule. It's in the rule book. If you just look at the rules, you can use any writing implement as the thing goes on. Speed versus accuracy, that's a interesting choice from coaches. Some coaches would rather them be fast and a little less accurate. Some would rather be accurate and a little less speed. And that's just a prerogative of coaches. Me, I wanted both. I was sort of pushy that way. If I don't tell you anything about all this, success is not due to some magical formula. The amount of success is determined by the amount of hard work and practice. My team competed in a region with Plains, and Richie Collins and I, we're a very, very close friend of mine. We were beating on each other constantly. In fact, Richie and I worked together. We talked, we shared problems together. We shared everything with our kids. Sometimes my kids came out ahead, sometimes his kids came out ahead. It all depended on who put in the hardest work, who practiced the most, and how it showed up at the end. You just have to work hard and practice a lot, and you will be successful. You may not win, but you will be successful. And that, again, is the whole key to this whole thing. It's not about, we all want to win the state meet. We all want to win the state championship. We all want to get a scholarship. But to leave high school and go into college and leave college with the ability to do math in your head is phenomenal. You don't lose, you may lose some of the tricks, but you will never lose the capability of doing math in your heads. It is crucial to do that. I've been working on this history of number sense. I haven't had time because of all the issues that I've had to deal with health-wise here recently. I haven't been able to work on a lot of it here lately, but I have been working on it. I found it interesting that the very first number sense test like we see it for UIL was 1943-44 school year. Now, they did other forms of math, mental math, prior to that, and I'll talk about that another time. But the actual number sense test that we see them today was 1943-44. I thought that was an interesting year. Then I got to reading some articles, and the military was talking to a bunch of teachers and to the UIL, saying that we needed to do something to improve the young people's minds to be able to do mathematics in their head. And that led to the number sense the way we see it today. I thought that was interesting that that turned out. But there'll be more on the number sense history whenever I get it all finished. I'm still working on it. Lots more research to do, but I'm working on it. So, here we go. I'll let you think about this a second. You know me, for those of you that know me, I'm off the wall. Some people are off the wall to the left, some people are off the wall to the right, some people are off the wall up above them. I'm off the wall all over the place. So you have to always take me in consideration. Anyways, you should know it now. No fair laughing behind yourself. You should laugh along the way. Okay, I think I have just about covered everything. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should mention, but I don't think so. I think that's just about all of it. There's so much more. The new coaches, I know you have all sorts of questions and problems. We can never answer them in a session like this. Even if we were in Austin doing this live, we could never answer them all. Feel free to email me and talk to me. I'll help you with how to organize your teams, whatever. I'll do everything I can for you. And so, some people say, well, you know, you're helping somebody over somebody else. No, everybody has the right to contact me. I just want to help you help kids. That's what I've been doing teaching for all these years. I coached number sense for, gosh, right at 20 something years. Was it 20? Yeah, pretty close to 20 years. You know, I want kids to learn, and I want kids to think with their minds. I want them to be able to look at something and think, let their minds generate strategies and how I can do that quickly. I think it's crucial. I don't have anything against a calculator or a pad or pencil and paper. I just think there are certain times kids need to be able to do math quickly in their head. If nothing else, to be able to estimate, so at least they know they're heading in the right direction. So feel free to email me, ask me whatever questions you have, ask for whatever help you need. I'll do everything I can in my power to help you help your kids, because that's what I do. Okay, I'd be glad to show you a sample test for those of you that, no, that's not it. There it is. Here's a sample test. This was last year's SAC test. I've already written this year's SAC test. I haven't sent it in yet, but I've written it. This is the SAC test. These are what the problems sort of look like as we go along. And like I say, may not have time to go through any of these today. If we have some questions, I want to answer them first. If we don't, we might ask some questions about a problem. But if we don't get it to it today, be sure and send me any problems you might have, you know, that you'd like me to discuss when we do the July 10th one. I will actually work problems out for you on the screen with my little trusty iPad, so it's there. Okay, I guess if we have any questions, David, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Thank you, Larry. Just a couple things. A couple of folks have asked about the middle school test, and we also have an elementary number sense contest. And so I put that in the chat box. there's a link to the A+ number sense page, and you can find the sequencing charts for those grade levels there. The test is the same format essentially as high school, just adjusted for the grade level. So you can find that information on that page, and that's in the chat box. We did get one question from Aiden so far. What's the remainder trick for 7?
Well, I would like to say that's an easy one, but it's not. Because you have to just, first off, you know there's only 6 numbers that can be remainder. Can't have a remainder of 7. But it is the most difficult of all of them. I don't use it very often in number sense for that reason. There is a nice strategy, but I don't use it often. I think it'd be good for your kids to see it, but I don't know that I would have them worry about memorizing it, because I'm not going to show it because it is more difficult to do. I'm not trying to cop out. I'm just trying to say I wouldn't spend a lot of time with that particular thing. In fact of the matter is, if you do some research on remainder tricks, there are remainder tricks for dividing by all sorts of numbers, dividing by 39, and they just go on and on. But they get really wild out there. So I think it'd be good to show your kids. Just Google remainder tricks by 7 and let them see that. They may look at it and find out that it's a relatively simple strategy, but it's really not an easy one like remainder by 4 and 6 and 9 and 8. It's not one of those nice ones, but it is there. So I'll cop out and say, let them look at it, but don't expect it to be on, unless it's a 3-digit divided by 7, and you can do that quickly in your head. And keep in mind also, while we're talking about that, not all problems have tricks. I may just want you to literally divide 1947 by 7. And you still ought to be able to do that in your head. That's called spreading your mind out, and still ought to be able to do that. But the actual trick of 7 is not an easy one, but a good one to look at and let the kids play with. Maybe they'll come up with a great way to do it. And if you do, you can let me know, and then I'll put it on the test.
So another question about remainders, is there a good resource or resources to use for strategy on remainders generally?
Well, of course, we're in a time in our lives, which is a great time. We have the internet, and the internet allows us to do things which is unbelievable. We can do so much fast research. Some of the lower level books, junior high, middle school books and stuff, they have remainders in them, the first, 6 or 7, whatever. But I think you could Google remainder strategies, and I know I've Googled it before, and there are just tons of them. And you can go in there and see those things there. There's not, the textbooks, high school textbooks don't have them anymore that I remember. You see them every once in a while on one of the end of chapters things, but you don't see them there much anymore. So you nearly just have to Google them, looking for remainders. You may have to Google divisible, the divisibility rules. That's what you're really looking for, is the divisibility rules, because that's how you figure out if something is divisible, what's the remainder. Now, that's it. That's the basic remainders. When you get along, I guess you can see number 32. When you look at number 32, you sit there and say, well, how am I going to do that? I'm going to have to multiply 15 times 16 and 17 times 18 and add them up, and then I'm going to divide by 9. No, there's a strategy to that. And the strategy isn't made up from thin air. It's mathematically created. You can literally take the remainder of each of those items and divide by 9. So remainder of 15 divided by 9 has a 6. remainder of 16 has a 7. Remainder, 6 times 7 is 42. Remainder of 42 is going to be 6. And then you have 17, it's remainder of, has a remainder of 8. And 18 has no remainder, so that's 0. So all you're doing is looking at 6 times 7 plus 8 times 0. And so that's 42. And the remainder of 42 divided by 9 is has a remainder of 6. And that's it. That's just one of those special remainders. There are lots of remainder problems. The one down there, number 17, that's the old casting out 9 remainder trick. It's really relatively simple. There are other remainders. As we move further down, they're more complex remainders. I'm looking to see if there's any more on here. There are remainders in bases. Oh, there's that one right there, number 76. The 11 to the 9th divided by 7 has a remainder. You're sitting there telling yourself, how am I going to do 11 to the 9th power? Well, you're not. Some people do 11 squared and do it that way. But there is a special theorem that makes number 76 work instantaneous. But there again, you have to have some knowledge. You have to find that theorem, and it's a remainder theorem. You have to find that remainder theorem, and you see it. And then once you learn that theorem, that problem takes takes longer to write down the answer than it does to find the answer. There's that knowledge versus speed thing. If you know something, it's a snap. If you don't, you better develop a strategy that's fast. So yeah, you just have to look up divisibility rules, and then you have to start working on these special remainders. But the ones I'm telling you, you have to memorize. Those are the divisibility rules. Those are the real quick ones. Dividing by 6, what's the remainder? Dividing by 8, what's the remainder? Then the other ones are just break-offs from there. And they've been around. Okay?
All right, do we have any other questions? Looks like the last one that we had in the chat box. So again, the slides from today will be posted on that Capitol Conference online page. Put that link in the chat earlier. You also had that in your reminder email. And we'll post a link to the number sense sequencing chart on that page as well. So you'll have that to refer to. Thanks to everybody for coming today. Thank you again, Larry, for presenting. We'll have additional STEM sessions on through the conference for the next several weeks. So keep checking the schedule and watching for any updates that may, changes or updates that might happen. And we appreciate you joining us for Capitol Conference Virtual Edition.
Let me wrap this up by, looking at some of these problems. Sure, you look at these problems and see what certain things, there are some new problems that you may not be familiar with, and you're just going to have to dig into them. And then, like say, you can email me and I'll be glad to help, try to help you with as things go along. And be sure you send questions. It's always hard to ask questions when you're listening to a Zoom PowerPoint, I guess. Be sure you ask questions and send them to me so that we'll spend more time working on the iPad, which I have hooked up now, but I didn't bring it up since we hadn't had a question yet that I could work. Be sure and send me those before July 10th. And I will make a list of them, and we'll work those problems as they come in and make things work. I hope you all have a great rest of the summer. And, all I can do is tell you, I'm praying every day that our children get back to school. We need them in school. we just can't afford for them not to be there. The kids need knowledge. They just need to be back in school. So all we can do is pray and do the best we can and move things on. So I hope you have the best. And I hope I'm going to get to see you at SAC in September or October or November in person. If not, I think we'll be doing this again. So you have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.